Hi guys, welcome to the Watch Hobbyist channel. So today I'm going to be reviewing the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch. Okay, so if you go to your local Omega store, you will see these by the bucket load. Okay, it's not a limited model, this particular variant, but this is the closest relative to the original Moonwatch, the watch that was worn on the moon, and a very famous watch for that reason. Now, you can see it all as marketing, or, you know, this watch has shown itself and proven itself to be a technical achievement in the way it was designed and the way it's actually been used in the past in professional scenarios. It's not a very waterproof watch, so that puts some people off, but I must admit that with the 30-meter water resistant models, I have taken them swimming even though it's not recommended, and I've personally never had any issues, so see that how you will. The thing for me with the Speedmaster now is that we're in 2017 and prices have gone absolutely nuts on all watches. No matter which watch brand you look at, all the prices are so much more expensive now than they were in the past. Even just a year or two ago, you know, everything seems to be going a bit crazy in terms of prices. So really there's not too many watches out there that give you bang for buck, and there's not too many watches out there that can be seen as a true classic anymore. And really there's not many watches that can be seen as a true classic anymore. You know, a watch that you can go and buy now, it's got a long line of history, a long heritage to it, and there's just not too many that are a reasonable price. You know, the ones that spring to mind for me are mainly Rolex, like the Submariner or the Daytona. The prices for those are just much more than they used to be. Maybe if we look to the lower end, which would be something like a Seiko Tuner, you know, but that watch certainly isn't for everybody. There's a million different classic watches out there. There's the JLC Reverso, the watches that have been around for a long time and haven't really changed too much over time. Those to me are the classics that you can still buy. However, the Speedmaster is one of those that's probably changed the least. It's certainly not changed a lot, especially since the 1970s, where it's had more or less the same case and things like that. Very strong, robust manual movement. And here in the UK right now, it's still a lot of money. It's £3,350 to buy this watch. But I think, you know, as time goes on, that's going to become £4,000, then it's going to become whatever, you know, in the future. Right now, it's still a watch that's, you know, hopefully classed in the watch world as reasonable money. Now, I know that £3,350 is a heck of a lot of money. Don't get wrong, I do understand the value of money, but what I'm getting at is if you compare it to other watches that have long lineage, I think this is probably one of the better value options. The other thing as well is the way that the watch is just the Speedmaster. There's not many watches that have like such a varying class to them. A bit like when the new Mini first came out, it was seen worldwide by people that could just afford a Mini and celebrities that could probably afford a Veyron. It's one of those watches in that sort of realm where it doesn't really have a particular market that buys it. You know, even if you're a watch collector and you've got all the money in the world, you'll probably still have one of these, whereas if you're just looking for the best first watch, you know, you're getting into premium watches and you want to spend around this money, you know, for me, I don't think you could really get too much better at this point in time. You don't have a date. That's one thing that lacks on the Speedmaster, but you do have this watch that has a fantastic, really solid manual movement. Now, once I had a Speedmaster years ago, and I went through an airport security check, and I didn't want to damage the watch, ironically. So you have the trays, and I put my jacket in the tray. I put my watch on top of the jacket so that it wouldn't get scratched as it goes through the X-ray scanner, and also I could keep as much of an eye on it as possible. And they took that long at the X-ray thing, I totally forgot to put my watch onto the jacket, went to get my jacket at the end at the other side, lifted it up really fast, just as you do like pulling your jacket up from the tray. The watch flew in the air, and when I say flew in the air, it probably went to about 8 or 9 feet in the air and landed right on the hard floor of the airport. So, you know, it's like a sort of softish but still very hard floor, if you know what I mean. It's like a resin coated floor type of thing. Not a mark on the watch, and it ran for the next 2 years with no problems whatsoever. So that, I think, is also a great benefit to having a manual movement watch. It's not to say that an automatic watch would have had any damage either, who knows, but it might have just landed correctly, but there was no damage to the watch and it ran really well. And it was from that point that I really understood how durable this type of watch is. And also, every time I've ever been to Switzerland, I try and go to the Omega Museum. First of all, it's a fantastic place. I mention it every time I talk about Omegas, but it really is an incredible place. You feel like you're getting close to the brand. You feel like you are being taught about things you didn't know about with the brand. And it really helps to sort of build that bond with the customer. I think it's a really clever thing that Omega have so much effort into it as well. The people that run it are fantastic. But when you go there, most of the displays are about the Speedmaster, really. About 50% of the whole room that you go in. It's got like a big NASA thing going on at the bottom end of it, you know, and all that type of thing. I do think that this watch, when you go to that room, it's suddenly you realise how important in the watch, in the history of watches, it has become. The other thing I should mention is the Hesalite crystal. For me, it's the standout feature of this watch. The greatest part of the watch is you can read the time. There's so many watches out there nowadays which they seem to forget that people actually need to tell the time on them. The Speedmaster is definitely not one of those. You've got great contrast going on with the white hands and the sort of grey black dial. It's not really deep black in most lights. It's sort of like a light black or a dark grey dial that goes on. So the contrast is great. Although it's a busy dial, it still seems really easy to read the time, and that's mostly due, I think, to the Hesalite. Now, they did make a version years ago where you had a Hesalite on the front and a sapphire crystal on the back. Unfortunately, they don't still make that, and I wish they did. This has the solid case back, which is absolutely fine. Don't get me wrong, I really like the case back, and I love having the Hesalite. But the best of both worlds would be to have the Hesalite on the front and the sapphire on the back, so I could see the movement. Because although it's really sort of a basic movement, or classed as a basic movement these days, I think the way it looks, I think its whole aesthetic is really appealing. Just to, when you take the watch off, which with these you do take them off. It's not an automatic as a manual. You have to actually manually wind it with the crown. So you'll probably do that each morning. As you're doing that, it's nice to be able to look at the movement. That's the only thing that I like the idea of. But unfortunately, they don't make that anymore. They do make, obviously, I know people are watching this and there's going to be some comments about the 10 million different variations of this watch, all the limited editions that they produce every single year. This Basel has been absolutely no exception. They've released like a blue and yellow version of this watch. I think it's called the Apollo 8 or something like that, which I'm honestly really not a fan of that one. However, the previous years where you've had like the Snoopy, and then there was the titanium one with a brown dial and Sedna gold bezel ring and things like that. I did like those a lot. I actually had the brown one. I missed out on the Snoopy. Recently there has been the Speedy Tuesday release of this watch. Now, yes, there are 10 million different versions of this watch. Okay, every single few months they seem to release some kind of special edition or a limited edition, or there's always some anniversary going on. And of course it's a marketing thing, and some people will actually go for it and some people will absolutely think, no, it's ridiculous, you're just totally diluting the brand. All I can say is that, in my opinion, I don't think they actually do dilute it, because they still keep this model available for purchase. This is the Moonwatch to own. It's probably the cheapest of all those limited editions, but it still offers you the same everything you want out of the watch. You want the classic looks. The nice thing about the limited editions is they're just a bit different. That's really all it's about, is having something limited that not everybody else has. Anybody can walk into a store and get one of these, whereas a limited edition, they can't. Obviously, that's the whole appeal. And for me, I'm really happy that they do still make the limited editions, and that they don't give in to all the people on the forums moaning that there's yet another limited edition coming out, because I think it keeps the variation going with the brand. And there's no way they would still produce them if there wasn't a market for them as well. I think the only one I've ever really seen totally fail was the one that had it's got like a coin for the dial from a few years ago, and I really dislike that. I think it looks awful. You can't read the time on it at all, and B, I just think I just don't like the look of it at all personally. But when they keep them within a normal sort of aesthetic, relatable to the original watch like we see here, I do think that's actually really appealing, and they could release as many limited editions as they want in my books. I think it's really, really nice. They always give you nice packaging, but that's not to say this one doesn't come with nice packaging as well, because it comes with this crazy massive box. You get 2 extra straps with it, so 2 NATO style straps that come with it. A jeweler's loop, so you can look through like a magnified loop if you want to, which I wouldn't recommend because you're only going to find things that you didn't know were there, like dings and marks and scratches, so probably stay clear of that. You know, you've got everything that you want with the watch. It's a real great package, and I just don't know particularly if it needed to be that big. But hey, it adds to like the pizzazz when you go to buy one of these watches. I think it's quite cool that you've got all that stuff going. So you know, it's a nice package, as I say. You know, it's not just a watch that you're buying. And recently one of my friends wanted one of these and I helped him get one, and he could not believe that that was the box. He was actually shocked, and he was actually a bit dismayed because he didn't know where he was going to put the box in his house. So you know, that's just something to be aware of, is you might want to just make sure you've got the cupboard space for such a big box. So anyway, that's just a bit of a look at the Omega Speedmaster. This is still the model to get if you ask me. So I hope you enjoyed the review, and please make sure you subscribe to the channel, and please give me a thumbs up if you did like the video, and make sure you leave some comments so we can all have a chat about any views that you've got and anything you want to ask. I'll try and answer. Thanks, I'll see you again soon.